It's 2008, the US Open at Torrey Pines golf course in San Diego, California. No one in the world needs to be told that the guy on the right is Tiger Woods, the greatest golfer to ever walk this planet by any measure except the number of majors won. That honor still belongs to Jack Nicklaus, who won the 4 major golf tournaments a total of 18 times. But on this day, June 16, 2008, Jack's record is looking mighty shaky. Woods has just won his 14th major, and the way he had been accumulating them, it seemed a foregone conclusion that he would rattle off another 5 to finally resolve the debate about golf's GOAT, greatest of all time. But sport, indeed life's great uncertainties, have never been better illustrated than through the roller coaster life led by Woods. The Open at Torrey Pines came 11 years after his first major. But as his career was engulfed in a sea of smut, controversy and pain, it would take another 11 years for the next. A glorious 15th major and his 5th US Masters green jacket in 2019. That, of course, is another story. Another flashpoint in sporting history. But this one, number 14, has to be the greatest of them all.
Come out on top.
In the groundbreaking major number 1, the win for the ages in the 1997 Masters, it seemed victory for the young Tiger was destined. And the incredible 15th win, the comeback for the ages, was pure fate. But Torrey Pines was not only a 5-day marathon of courage and perseverance over debilitating injury, but had the added storyline of this guy. Not quite as well known as Tiger, the 45-year-old journeyman Rocco Mediate was described by one commentator as looking more like the guy who cleans Tiger's swimming pool. But winless for 6 years, Mediate's nerve, good humor, and sportsmanship enriched a storyline that was already riveting.
Everybody, as the years go on, has their own Tiger Woods story. You know, the time they were
They don't have this one. I just about got him.
Set on the cliff tops overlooking the Pacific Ocean on the west coast of USA, Torrey Pines is a 36-hole public golf facility owned by the city of San Diego in California. Like every truly great golf course, it's as treacherous as it is inspiring. In particular, the South Course, the venue for the 2008 US Open. But for Tiger Woods, Torrey Pines held no fears. At the time, it would have been impossible to overestimate the control Woods had over his sport. Television ratings and course attendances soared when he played. He'd been world number 1 for more than 500 weeks. He'd won 13 majors, and just as importantly, approaching this event, he'd won the regular tour event at Torrey Pines, the Farmers Insurance Open, 6 times, including the last 4 years in a row. The course, at 7,603 yards, was the longest on the 2008 PGA Tour roster, but Tiger loved it, having been taken there as a child by his father Earl. There was just one problem. Woods had not played a single tournament in 2 months. The day after he finished second in the 2008 US Masters, he'd had surgery on his left knee to repair cartilage damage. That much was public knowledge. What no one knew at the time was that in May, he had also been diagnosed with 2 stress fractures in his left tibia, and for good measure, a torn ACL. His doctor, his coach, and his caddy all thought it was silly to play. Tiger didn't agree. He wore a knee brace in a 9-hole practice round, but it was a disaster, and he decided to ditch the brace and play through the pain. Organizers drew Woods with world number 2, Phil Mickelson, and world number 3, Adam Scott. It guaranteed massive crowds following one group, and they watched Woods double bogey the first hole of the tournament and shoot 1 over par on the first day. In a major on such a tough course, it was not a bad result. 1 shot better than Scott, 1 shot worse than Mickelson. A typical tame opening day. The drama began on day 2. 3 over the card after 9 holes, Woods had to stand on a cart path to hit his second shot. His foot slipped, and in the words of caddy Steve Williams, "I could hear the crack in the knee." Williams suggested he withdraw, but Woods angrily refused. Despite frequently grimacing after shots thereafter, he began an astonishing comeback. He shot 30 on his second 9 to climb to just 1 shot off leader Stuart Appleby of Australia and equal second with Robert Karlsson of Sweden and world number 158, Rocco Mediate. Mediate was popular on the tour, but very much a journeyman. A barber's son of Italian heritage, he'd won 5 times on tour until back injuries hampered his career. It had been 6 years since his most recent win. He was 45, and no one thought he'd still be on the leaderboard on Sunday. But he was. Woods fired a 1 under par 70 to take a 1-shot lead over England's Lee Westwood into the final round. But Mediate was only 1 further back after a 72 on the Saturday. With 3 second placings, 6 thirds, and 19 top 10 finishes in majors, Westwood is considered one of the greatest players never to win a major. This was one of his greatest chances. After the first 9 on Sunday, he led by a shot from Woods and 2 from Mediate. But 3 bogeys in the next 4 holes cost him dearly. Woods bogeyed the 13th hole, and Mediate, with a birdie on 14, was suddenly a shot in front. And there he remained, tapping in for par on the 18th, with Woods and Westwood in the final group with 1 hole to play. Since Friday's cart path incident, Woods had been grimacing and limping more frequently, and many of those who didn't realize the seriousness of his injury felt he was just a little overdramatic. Both he and Westwood needed a birdie to force a playoff. Mediate watched on television with a camera trained on him, and he saw Westwood's long birdie putt miss. And he saw Woods line up from 12 feet, knock it into the hole, and heard commentator Dan Hicks deliver one of the most famous lines in golf broadcasting. Expect anything different? Mediate turned away from the television and with a mix of admiration and disappointment could only exclaim, "Unbelievable. I knew he'd make it." Under the open conditions at the time, the playoff was not sudden death, but 18 holes on the Monday, which meant Woods had to go an extra day on his stress fractures. Even so, he was still a firm favorite to eclipse Mediate, so the underdog did something cheeky in a bid to upset him. He copied Tiger's famous final round red shirt, noting, "He wears red on Sundays. It's Monday. I wear red on Mondays." World number 1 versus world number 158 looked to be heading to its inevitable conclusion as Woods strode to a 3-shot lead after 10 holes. But Rocco wasn't done.
All of a sudden, things turned. I hit a bunch of good shots in a row, and here we were even, then bang, 15 happened. Here I was about to win the golf tournament.
3 successive birdies on 13, 14, and 15, and some mistakes from Woods, and he was back where he was the day before. 1 in front with a hole to go. Until he drove into the bunker, was unable to get to the green in 2, and couldn't match the Woods birdie, which tied it all up again. Still not separated after 90 holes, the 2 men in red then went to sudden death, starting on the par 4 7th hole. But Rocco's run was done. Again, he drove into the bunker, put his second in the stand, and made bogey.
Had trouble with that 7th hole tee shot all week, and I hooked it again in that bunker, and I caught a horrible place. It was just obviously, it wasn't a very good shot, but and then what are you gonna do?
Woods, on a leg with 2 stress fractures and a torn ACL, made par on his 91st hole and won his 3rd US Open, his 14th major.
I don't know how I did it, to be honest with you. I just kept going forward. I kept moving forward.
Mediate did have one victory for the day. He got more laughs at the presentation ceremony, delighting the crowd with his good humor and sportsmanship.
I scared him. You know, I did good today. It was unbelievable for both of us. It's just, I can't believe how many people showed up today. I didn't think it'd be that many people, but there were just, it was like yesterday. It was amazing.
Woods, of course, would go on to so much more drama. Those who questioned the legitimacy of his hobbling and wincing would get their answer 2 days later when he announced he was having more extensive knee surgery and would be out for the rest of the season. His body and his mind would never be the same. The shame of his private life, the pain of a series of back operations, an addiction to painkillers, the incredible comeback for major number 15 in the 2019 US Masters, and then the terrible car accident of 2021. Mediate, in contrast, would slip back into a career of comparative anonymity. Save for being asked about the 2008 US Open every day for the rest of his life. He did go on to take a 6th US PGA Tour win in the Fries.com Open of 2010. And he finally won his major, albeit a seniors major in the 2016 Senior PGA Championship, one of 4 victories on the Champions Tour.
It was unbelievable for both of us.
He was a fine player, but it was his most disappointing defeat that became Rocco's finest hour. Humble, content, and proud.
I just enjoyed the challenge so much. He's, you know, I don't know how to explain it to you. He has an air about him that you just like to be around, and I wanted to beat the crap out of him today, and I almost beat him. It was cool. It was the best fight I think he's had in a while.
Thanks for watching. For more great content on all the major stories in world sport, make sure you hit the subscribe button.